Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty intriguing news. Once again, we do keep on seeing more and more information slowly being flooded on out for the next huge PlayStation acquisition. And we've kind of talked about this, kind of hinted on this ourselves beforehand, and we've kind of been seeing a little bit more of a bigger trend going on when it comes to all of this information coming out. And we also even saw even more kind of intriguing stuff, and also even some kind of weird like NFT, like BS going on too as well. A lot of stuff to go talk about, a lot of things to go do a little bit of a deep dive on, and we're basically pulling out like a really big conspiracy theory hats right this second because it does seem like a lot of the stuff is going to be lining up to be hopefully pretty good. So like I said, I have my chalkboard all behind me, we have all of our wires all put together, and I can't wait to go and talk more about this stuff with all of you guys. So let's go talk about it. So if any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console Controller, Twitter and Twitch room as well, link down below, the Weeble and Coinbase down below, and all the other good stuff as well down below. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching. Let's go and dive into the video itself. So if you guys have been seeing the news, you guys heard about the news, we're going to be talking a little bit more once again into the deep dive of Square Enix. So when it comes to Square Enix, it's a pretty big, somewhat larger company. You guys know it's Final Fantasy. They've always been buddy-buddy with Sony. And I'm kind of doing a little more of a deep dive on it because everything just kind of seems like it's lining up to make sense. So as you guys have a chance to go and see, the Sony stock's actually been kind of doing pretty intriguingly throughout these past few months. Now, if you guys are in the stock market, you guys kind of know we're in a little bit of a bear market right now. Everything is and has been going down. But if you guys also go look at this one, throughout the past 6 months, Square Enix Holdings Company has actually basically gone down 30%. Or if you want to go compare it for the year, we had a little bounce up and down depending on that stuff. And over throughout the past 5 years, it's been doing okay. Like 28%. It's not the best, not the worst. Could definitely be doing worse. But as of right now, it's definitely down and going down. And when it comes to the actual company itself, it's probably not even the most expensive company out there. So as of right this second, I think the Square Enix company itself is apparently running around 651 billion Japanese dollars. So we have to go see that into USD. Basically, I have no idea how to even go and write that in general, but basically the company itself is at least somewhat in the affordable side to companies out there to go and, well, obviously go buy. So as of right this second, we have been seeing more and more rumors coming out for when it comes to Square Enix. Now, once again, it's always kind of a big thing because it does actually have a little bit more of a tie-in to with Japanese-based companies. So when it comes to Japan, as you guys may have heard throughout previous videos of mine, and just in general, there's a really big, like, cultural significance of working and essentially keeping it in the business. A good example is basically, like, say for America, if we could have American homegrown domestic production, typically, we'd want to go push for it if it's reliable and also good for the economy. Granted, we do like to outsource a lot of stuff to, say, to China because, well, it just makes a lot more extra money. But in the sake of Japan, a lot of really big Japanese companies are very, very close. Imagine, like, if the entire economy was all basically centered in, like, New York City, kind of how it is for a lot of big places such as, like, in Tokyo, which you guys actually have a chance to even see when it was found in Shibuya City in Tokyo, Japan. So a lot of these big locations, all these big companies, think Sony itself, which is actually a Japanese-based company, or Square Enix, which is, once again, a Japanese-based company, typically have a very nice, proper connection. To the point where a lot of like government regulatory businesses do not want to go and allow this stuff to happen. So basically, if you had someone like a Microsoft coming on in and saying, hey, we would love to go and buy Square Enix. We'd love to go make some money. We'd love to have Final Fantasy a part of our Xbox Game Pass catalog. Typically, a lot of the Japanese government would pretty much be a hard stop, mainly because they don't want to have and sell their assets in big companies that are churning out a lot of money. Like revenue-wise, it's a pretty big company, and they also don't want to go put that towards any other company. But Sony, as you guys probably know, Japanese base, the government probably would allow it. There probably wouldn't be any, like, more so cultural differences or issues with it. And on top of it, too, we've actually had a lot of really good close holdings when it comes to Final Fantasy and other, say, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7 Remastered, and all that type of stuff. So there's a lot of intriguing connections by itself, which it really wouldn't probably tie into, say, Nintendo. A lot of Nintendo games just wouldn't be able to utilize their full-on capability of making the games unless we had, like, a Nintendo Switch Pro, and even then, a lot of the games would probably suffer. Xbox, like I said, too, as well, is not really an Asian-based company, and they don't usually push too much into the Japanese markets or even Korean markets or even Chinese markets, so that's also another big X-net. And as well, we've also heard many different times which say Jim Ryan, good old big old Boyle himself, wants to go and drop a lot of money still into acquisitions when it comes to these big companies. And we most recently had Bungie get a lot done in, but now I'd probably say, especially with how many exclusivities that basically we have for the PlayStation 5 already, it's looking pretty likely. And this is not only just based off of this, because as we saw, we actually did have a lot of these holding companies go and sell stock. Basically, we saw that $300 million deal that went through, but they weren't a lot of the really big products. Like, they weren't a lot of the big, say, like anime that they've had in production. They haven't done like the Final Fantasies in production. Like, a lot of these really big major companies themselves are still being held by Square Enix. But that would also make a lot of sense too, because when it comes to this stuff, it'd probably incentivize a lot of these big companies to make that jump, because they don't have too much of this like kind of bloatware when it comes to their company itself. So think like if you could have a company worth $1 billion, but you have to go deal with like 70 games you don't even want to have in the first place, a lot of bloatware, a lot of not cool products, or they can go and sell it for $300 million, and then you go buy it for $600 million, and the whole acquisition is a little bit more streamlined. Now that's kind of just a really rough example, but it does kind of seem like the Square Enix acquisition is looking a little bit on the bigger side. But as well, we've also been seeing a lot more of the insiders too. So this is not just like my own speculation, although I do think it's kind of somewhat, I think a lot of you guys watch this video could be like, oh yeah, I can see your point, or yeah, I've kind of been thinking that myself. But we've also been seeing even more big rumors, where a lot of these rumors kind of start off first and foremost with From Software, if you guys remember that, where a lot of people are pushing that, say, they want to have like Elden Ring get bought out and basically picked on up, have all those other games. They worked with Demon Souls, etc., would just make a lot of sense based on prior connections, prior commitments, prior exclusivity rights that they have, all that type of stuff. But that kind of tapered off a little bit. Elden Ring did do a phenomenal job, and there could always be a deal working in the end, but right now I think a lot of more people are pushing once again for the Square Enix acquisition, which once again, Final Fantasy, all that stuff would make a lot of sense, especially because we even had the Final Fantasy 16 that's basically meant to be a PlayStation exclusive. And on top of that too, it does make a lot of sense as well, because the Japanese dev and publishers announced it was selling off all their kind of like junk games and IPs, besides like Tomb Raider. There's a lot of just filler games mixed in there, like Thief or Deus Ex, who's been kind of inactive, although good games. And I think it kind of just goes to show that there's gonna be a lot more stuff with it. We've also been seeing a lot more of the other like kind of big leakers and industry insiders kind of talking about the fact of a lot of these kind of rumors they've been hearing throughout the past like 2 months or so are all in regards to the Square Enix acquisition. Now, once again, no one really knows at the end of the day. Like, even I'm like, a lot of speculation does kind of coincide. Like, you can kind of see it all put together. But at the end of the day, no one fully knows until the people are signing the deals. And even then, it's usually pretty locked under like a closed lip, because there's a lot of legalities, NDAs, and you don't want to get sued for millions of dollars and lose your job. So, very intriguing. Although we actually have even seen, though, some more Sony kind of speculation for the government saying how they want to have the $3.6 billion Destiny deal not fully go through. So that's kind of another big side thing to kind of go and note, because there's always that chance even the government themselves, both on Microsoft and Sony, don't actually want to allow all these purchases when it comes to this. But that's why a lot of people are more especially paying attention to detail for this, because with $300 million for a partial sale of the company and the IPs, that's a pretty big move, and a pretty kind of somewhat scary move to make too as well. So although there is actually a little bit of a sadder thing too, because they did also want to push a lot of this for NFTs. Like, I think they specifically mentioned, like, for Avengers and Tomb Raider, they basically wanted to go and somehow get rid of all this for like NFTs and do some big like investments into blockchain and gaming and everything else. And like, that is a little bit strange, because we've also been seeing NFTs finally kind of flatlining when it comes to like, percentages, when it comes to profits, when it comes to people making money off them and people minting them and making them, etc. And it's funny because basically Square Enix basically wanted to go and sell off their studios to go and gamble on just random weird crypto stuff, which is not cool. They want to sell like all their game studios, as we mentioned too as well, and it's weird because they want to have these transactions enabled to launch new businesses by moving forward with the investments in the fields, including blockchain, AI, and the cloud, which is very weird to go and see just in general. But it would also, funny enough, go and tie a little bit with the Sony, with the brand new PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Plus streaming services, where maybe they want to go and have more cloud gaming mixed with the PS Now new addition for the PS Plus new like Project Spartacus vibe. So it's very intriguing to go and see this, because a lot of the stuff is making sense. We're seeing insiders talk about how they've been hearing these rumors for months upon months. We've been hearing insiders saying that this just makes a lot of sense. I myself thinks this would be a really streamlined process, especially that they've gone for this bloatware, and it already kind of goes to show that they're willing to go be sold or bought out. Like, I think that's the biggest thing of this video, is the fact that they have the permission and wanting to get rid of their assets or be acquired, kind of how Ubisoft themselves also mentioned on top of that. So I think everything being put together too, with the price, with the Japanese-based company, when it comes to the economy itself, when it comes to their actual exclusivities, when it comes to everything else, Sony actually might be making some really big business moves, and I want to see what you guys kind of think on this kind of crazy put together billboard of, well, I was just assuming everything out there. So give me your thoughts and comments down below, and as well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console controller, Twitter and Twitch room down below, Weeble and Coinbase down below, and everything else down below, and give me all your thoughts and comments on the video itself, all in the comment section down below.